Hello, everyone. Welcome to Divine Tales. Today's story is that of hope and restoration. Dot in the heart of a once joyful home, a deep silence now lingers. Where there was once laughter, there is only distance. Love, which once bound this family together, is now hidden beneath layers of pride, frustration, and hurt. A father and mother stand on opposite sides, their backs turned not just to each other, but to the memories they built. Between them, the children, caught in the crossfire, stand helpless, yearning for the warmth that has faded from their home. This is a story of brokenness, but also of hope. It's a story that reminds us that even in the darkest of times, love and understanding can mend the deepest rifts. In the quiet tension of this family's division, a spark remains, waiting to be rekindled. Though they are torn apart now, the road to healing is never too far for those who believe in the power of forgiveness and unity. With each small step, the journey toward reconciliation begins. The once happy family was now divided. Arguments had taken over their home, and the warmth they once shared was replaced by silence. The parents no longer spoke with love, and the children felt lost in the tension, wondering if things would ever get better. The once lively dinner table had become a place of silence. Plates were filled with food, but the warmth that once filled the room was gone. The clinking of cutlery was the only sound that broke the heavy quiet. No one looked up, and no one dared to speak. The parents, sitting at opposite ends of the table, avoided each other's eyes as if even a glance would open old wounds. The children, eyes downcast, poked at their food. They remembered the laughter that used to echo around this very table. The jokes, the stories, the love that made every meal feel like a celebration. But now dinner had become a daily reminder of how far their family had drifted. Each bite tasted like the distance growing between them, and each passing moment made the silence louder. One night, as the moonlight filtered through the window, the children sat together on the edge of the bed, their faces heavy with worry. The silence that filled their home had become unbearable, and the absence of joy weighed on their young hearts. They whispered to each other, sharing their sadness, missing the laughter that once filled every corner of their home. They talked about the days when their parents smiled at each other, when dinner time was filled with stories and warmth. But those moments now felt like distant memories, slipping further away with every passing day. Still, in their quiet conversation, a flicker of hope remained. They believed deep down that love was stronger than the distance that now divided their family. Though they were just children, they understood something powerful: that love, if nurtured, could heal even the deepest wounds. With determined hearts, they decided they would do whatever it took to bring their parents back together. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they refused to let go of the hope that one day their family would be whole again. Late one evening, as the house grew quiet, the mother sat alone by the window, gazing out into the night. The distant sounds of the neighborhood drifted in, but inside, the silence of her own home felt louder than ever. In the stillness, memories came rushing back: the laughter of her children, the warmth of shared meals, the tender moments with her husband that once filled their lives. She missed it all. The connection they once had, the joy they shared, seemed like a distant dream now. The constant arguing had drained the love from their home, leaving behind an emptiness she hadn't known was possible. She realized how much had been lost, how each word spoken in anger had built a wall between them, brick by brick. As she reflected, her heart ached with regret. The love that had once been so strong felt fragile now, but she wasn't ready to give up. Deep down, She longed to find a way back, to heal the wounds, to reconnect with her husband and children, and to restore the unity that once made the family whole. In the quiet of that moment, she made a promise to herself. She would fight for her family, no matter how difficult the path to healing might be. The father sat alone in his office, the once familiar space now feeling strangely empty. Papers were scattered across the desk, but his mind was far from his work. Instead, it was filled with the echoes of arguments and the cold silence that had settled over his home. As he sat there, the weight of the division between him and his family pressed heavily on his chest. He loved them deeply, his wife, his children. They meant everything to him. But somewhere along the way, pride and anger had clouded his judgment. He had let small disagreements grow into unspoken resentment, allowing the distance between them to widen. Sitting there in the quiet, he began to see just how much the words he had bid had hurt not only his family, but also himself. The once joyful moments they shared seemed like memories from another lifetime. He missed the laughter, the unity, the love that once came so easily. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that the silence in the house wasn't just between him and his wife, it was within him too. He longed to break through it, to find a way back to the family that had once been his greatest source of happiness. Determined to heal the growing rift in their family, the children sat together at the kitchen table, their faces set with quiet determination. They had watched for too long as the distance between their parents grew and the silence in the house became unbearable. It hurt to see the family they loved slipping away, but they refused to give up hope. They believed deep down that their family could be whole again. With a sense of urgency, they decided to write a letter, a heartfelt plea to their parents. In the letter, they poured out their feelings, sharing how much they missed the love and unity that had once filled their home. They spoke of the laughter that used to echo through the halls and the warmth that used to greet them each day. They told their parents how much they longed for them to find their way back to each other. The words on the page were simple but powerful, a reminder of the love they still had as a family buried beneath the hurt. As they wrote, they hoped their parents would read the letter with open hearts, understanding how much their children needed them to come together again. The letter was more than just words. It was a symbol of the children's hope, a bridge that could lead their family back to the love they all desperately missed. When the parents sat down to read the letter, they had no idea just how deeply it would touch them. As they unfolded the paper, the heartfelt words of their children brought a wave of emotion they hadn't expected. Line by line, the message sank in. Their children missed the love and unity that had once filled their home. It was a plea for healing, for a return to the family they all longed for. For the first time in months, the weight of their distance became clear. They realized how much the conflict had affected not only their children, but themselves. The letter opened their eyes to the pain they had caused, not just through their words, but through their silence. The love that had once come so easily had been buried under layers of pride, hurt, and misunderstanding. Sitting together, with the letter still in their hands, they exchanged a glance that held more understanding than words ever could. It was a moment of truth. Both had been hurting, both had let their emotions drive them apart, but neither had ever stopped loving each other or their family. For the first time in months, they talked. They admitted the mistakes they had made, the ways they had let the distance grow. But more importantly, They both admitted something else. They wanted to rebuild their family. They wanted to find their way back to the love that had always been there, waiting to be rediscovered. It was the beginning of their journey toward healing, one that would require patience, forgiveness, and most of all, love. The parents knew that healing wouldn't come overnight, but they were ready to take the first step. With heavy hearts but a newfound determination, they called their children to the living room. Sitting together as a family, they began with what had seemed impossible for so long: an apology. The parents looked at their children and each other, acknowledging the tension and hurt they had caused. Tears welled up in the eyes of the children, not from sadness, but from the relief of finally hearing the words they had longed for. For the first time in what felt like forever, the family talked openly. The children shared their fears and the emptiness they had felt as their home grew colder. The parents listened, holding back tears as they realized how deeply the division had affected everyone. They promised to do better, to rebuild the love that had once made their family whole. And in that moment, the spark of hope began to flicker again. It wasn't always easy. Rebuilding their relationship took patience and effort. There were days when old habits and misunderstandings resurfaced, but this time they were determined to keep moving forward. Slowly, love and understanding returned to their home. They made time for each other. Simple moments like sharing meals, laughing together, or even just talking about their day. The parents worked hard to rebuild the trust they had once shared, making time for one another and their children. With each small gesture of love, the walls between them crumbled a little more. And with every passing day, the rift that had once seemed so wide began to heal, replaced by a bond that grew stronger than before. The warmth that had once been missing returned to their home, and the laughter that had once felt like a distant memory filled the air again. The journey wasn't perfect, but they learned that love, patience, and understanding could mend even the deepest wounds. As they sat together, united once more, they knew that their family had emerged stronger because they had fought for it together. Finally, the family was whole again. After months of hard work, difficult conversations, and small but meaningful acts of love, the warmth that had once been lost returned to their home. The journey had been long and painful at times, but through every challenge, love and understanding had mended the deepest rift. The scars of their past remained, but they were now reminders of the strength they had found in one another. Laughter once again filled the rooms that had been so silent. Meals were shared with joy, and the bond between them had never felt stronger. The children felt safe and happy, knowing their parents had fought for their family with all their hearts. The parents, once distant, now stood hand in hand, grateful for the second chance they had given each other. The family had learned that no matter how broken things might seem, healing was always possible. It wasn't easy, but with patience, love, and faith, they had come through the darkest of times united and stronger than before. Their home was no longer just a place. They had found their way back to being a family again. And in that unity, they knew they could face anything together.